Thank you so much for being here today at our 4th Women in IT, Engineering and Apprentices series. My name is Rebecca and I'm moderating. This event has been broadcast to our TU Dublin students and second level students. Today's webinar is titled, What the Future Will Look Like. Our 4 panellists is going to chat to us about the exciting changes in technology and how this is going to shape our world. I would like to welcome our panellists, Michelle McDade, Director of Engineering at WorkHuman. Hi, Michelle. Hi. She has been recognised for her contributions to Ireland's tech sector and held senior technology roles in AIB. Stephen Doyle is the Country Managing Director for ABB in Ireland. He is a graduate of DIT and is married with 4 children. Catherine Hannon is a 3rd-year apprentice in Carpentry and Joinery in DIT in TU Dublin. She was the first female apprentice in Dublin City Council and was a past DIT student in mathematical science. Hi, Catherine.
Hey.
Rhonda Doyle was recently appointed as Director of Operations, Services and Projects for Schneider Electric Ireland. Hi, Rhonda. Previously, Rhonda also worked in eBay. So I would like to also introduce our opening speaker. We're delighted to have Fiona Cranley. She's a Senior Manager in TU Dublin, leading the School of Engineering on the Tala campus. Fiona's career as an engineer has given her many opportunities to travel worldwide and carry out research with medical professionals. Promoting engineering and an excellent career choice is a clear mission of Fiona's. So before Fiona gives her opening remarks, I would like to talk a bit about the background to the webinars. I would like to talk a bit about the background of the webinars. I just said that twice. This is the 4th in a series of online webinars and is a TU Dublin Across Campus initiative. These are organised by Therese Fitzgerald, who works on the Access to Apprenticeship programme and coordinates the Women Building the Future programme. Michelle Luby is a senior lecturer in TU Dublin and coordinates the Young Women in Technology programme and Coding for Girls summer programme. Myself, who promotes access entry routes in TU Dublin and coordinates the Building a STEAM initiative with the aim of inspiring young women to choose STEM subjects for their Leaving Cert and apply for STEM courses at further and higher education. And then we have our Leslie Shoemaker. She is an academic and lead coordinator of the STEAM mentoring programme. We would like to take this opportunity to recognise Leslie for her contribution and congratulate Leslie in her new role coordinating the SARE programme, the SARE mentorship programme in TU Dublin. So congrats, Leslie. It really has been fantastic to be part of this team who, like our panellists, are passionate about gender equity and diversity in STEM. So now, before we start, Michelle Luby is going to tell you about the participant feedback survey that is available after the event. And immediately after this, Therese is going to share a video about the STLR, which relates to TU Dublin students only. So Michelle Luby, it's over to you.
Thanks very much, Rebecca. So hi, everyone. Delighted to be here, part of this. And as Rebecca has said, we have a feedback survey which we're going to share with the participants directly after the event. So we'd be delighted and really appreciate it if you can fill in the feedback survey. It's not particularly long because we really would value your opinion on how you found the event today. So thanks very much, everyone.
Thanks, Michelle. I'm just going to share the video now.
very much, Therese. So to open the event, I am delighted to now invite Fiona Cranley to give her opening remarks.
Thanks very much, Rebecca. I think we can safely predict that digital technology will continue to form an integral part of our world going forward. So it's tied us all more closely together in terms of greater networks of opportunity in the past year in particular. So learning and working from anywhere in the world on our phones and devices has transformed our lives in the past year, and we can only build on these positive transformational changes. So we're all using technology for our shopping, our social interactions with family and friends, education, entertainment, managing our finances, even well-being, dieting, fitness, you name it. And this is all thanks to the computer, software and communications technology experts. So we have more flexibility thanks to them. We can work with global clients from the comfort of our own homes or even while traveling. So the other area which you see big changes in will be health. So we've heard of telehealth, connected health, e-health. These are all on the rise, mainly due to virtual healthcare options now available. So virtual GP visits, chatbots, these are all used to deliver healthcare to individuals, especially during COVID-19. So many tech firms are now focusing on disease and cancer research with the help of engineers to develop and manufacture, say, heart valve stents, I suppose, artificial limbs, hip replacement, surgical tools, and many, many different electronic devices that are used in healthcare, such as monitoring your heart or blood health as well. So we've seen extensive use also, unfortunately, in ventilators in hospitals in the past years, and these were all designed and manufactured by engineers. So I suppose now we're in the rollout phase of the vaccine, so working closely with the biologists and the pharmaceutical engineers. Rapid manufacturing and testing has been developed thanks to these skilled technicians and engineers. And this will continue on in the future as well as new technologies and drug development continues. So we've a lot of things to thank, I suppose, engineers for today, and we need more engineers. We need more engineers to solve third world problems, to address climate change through, say, carbon reducing technology, promoting green engineering to improve sustainability also, and then identifying valuable and viable alternative energy solutions such as renewable technologies in sun, wind, ocean and biomass. We need to rethink as well how our cities are designed and how they function, how we feed the growing world population through bioengineering and agricultural innovation. So there's lots of different ways that the engineers can become involved in improving our society. So to address these challenges, we need students to join the varied disciplines of engineering as soon as possible if you're not already in there. So these contributions to societies can be seen all around the world, and the future of engineering will excel in each of these areas. So as was said earlier on, it's quite vast. The main areas, civil, electrical and mechanical, is where engineering started off from, but now it's grown into many, many different disciplines. So you can choose from pharmaceutical, electronic, energy, marine, chemical, agricultural, architectural and environmental engineering. So there's many, many choices for you, and it will take you around the world. I mean, my career has taken me from Canada to China, all around Europe, and this is the same for many, many engineers, and it could be you as well. So the future engineers, they will protect the environment, they'll improve quality of life through sustainable cities, clean energy, better health products, more food innovation and improved digital technology. So today you're going to hear many inspiring speakers talk of their journey, and my hope is that you too will consider to follow similar careers to all of us. So thank you, Rebecca.
Thanks so much, Fiona, for that really comprehensive and insightful address. I just like when you said we need more engineers. Yes, we do.
You definitely do.
We need more diversity, and we need more females as well in engineering. So thank you for that. So now we're going to move on to our 4 panelists. I introduced our panelists earlier, and you would have noticed that they all represent different fields of expertise. So I'm going to start off by asking the panelists the same question. When we look to the future and look at the green agenda and all that is happening across the world to ensure the sustainability of future generations, tell me, what do you believe is on the horizon for your organization that will contribute to the sustainability or green agenda? Michelle, if you could start, please. Michelle McDade, thanks.
Thanks. I loved what you said there, Fiona. You know, it was really, really inspiring. I think climate change is one of the biggest things that is facing the whole world and the planet. And I think we all have a responsibility to play our part in improving things. And companies have a responsibility to fully understand the global impacts of their activities and their actions. So this starts with understanding your environmental footprint and also taking appropriate steps to minimize the impact. And also seeking ideas and approaches that will help the company to be sustainable in the long term. So in WorkHuman, we're committed to advancing and modeling sustainable behaviors and practices in the workplace. We're committed to achieving carbon neutrality and while promoting less impactful and more ethical relationship between our business practices and the environment. So as part of our efforts, we've become a new charter member of the Sustainable Business and Enterprise Roundtable, and we're working them to determine our carbon footprint and also how we can become carbon net neutral. WorkHuman is co-headquartered between Dublin and Boston. So this company, the Sustainable Business and Enterprise Roundtable is US based, but they're helping us on a global basis. And they would have other clients such as Salesforce, SAP, Cisco, HubSpot, Uber, and many more. We're actually their smallest client, so that speaks volumes of our desires to become world-class in our efforts around sustainability. It's also important that sustainability is a regular topic of conversation, and there's an onus on us to raise awareness. We've launched a new employee resource group on sustainability. So that focuses on sustainability, accelerating ideas and actions that we can take across the whole company. And just to mention, WorkHuman run a live conference every year where it's focused on making work more human. And we would have expertise and thought leaders on leadership, diversity, and human experience, which is the new name for HR. So out at the conference came WorkHuman Professional Certification, which enables companies or individuals to become certified in being a human-centered workplace. And we created a workplace charter of workplace rights. And one of them is, I have the right to work in a place that strives to protect the environment. So there's a lot that can be learned through that certification.
Great. Thank you, Michelle. Stephen?
Thanks, Rebecca. Yeah, well, look, I suppose ABB, just to outline who we are, so we're one of the biggest technology companies in the world. I suppose traditionally we would have had power and automation and control of power would have been our core offer, if you like, but you know, we've evolved so much more in the last few years to really, you know, become a digital leader in what we do. I suppose just in terms of sustainability, I mean, if we're looking at the macros here, you know, I think it's worth pointing out that electricity will be and is the backbone of sustainability, you know, as we move forward into a more carbon neutral society. You know, whether it's power generation through renewables, transport, how we get around, manufacturing, data centers, buildings, they'll all have electricity at the core, and it's how we generate and distribute it really will be key to how we manage this transformation. And I suppose, I mean, just to drill down a little bit there, so if we're looking at renewables, say solar and wind, and Ireland has a huge wind resource, if you like, that we're good at utilizing. It's not like a traditional power station where you can flick a switch on and off and easily meet demand. It's, you know, wind is unpredictable and the sun is unpredictable. So the grid will need to be stabilized with additional sources such as battery energy, hydro, synchronous condensers is a new one. That's a big project that ABB are working on at the moment. And again, all of these different sources are there working in tandem with the renewables to give us this stability on the grid as we go forward. And I mean, look, I suppose, you know, sustainability, I mean, I looked at the definition there last night. It's not just about being green, but it needs to be there, it needs to work, you know, it needs to have the trust of us as that it's going to work. So one area where ABB are very, very strong is a lot of the equipment that the grid operators and industry use will now have predictive maintenance options on them. where essentially the equipment will flag to the end user, and it will tell them when it starts to wear out, when it starts to vibrate, when it starts to get hot. And that will in turn avoid any unplanned shutdowns, which cost time, money, and of course trust. As I was saying, you need to have trust in these new power sources. And look, I suppose one thing from a local level, one thing worth pointing out is that the very first EV bus, electric vehicle bus in Ireland, at the Crown Plaza Hotel in Dublin Airport was an ABB project. So very, very proud of that one. And I suppose as well, we have an ambition now to move all of our own car fleet over to electric vehicles. So we've started that process this year. So yeah, we're lots of green things going on in ABB.
Thanks, Stephen. And lots of green things is right. Catherine, can we go over to you, please?
Hi, thanks very much, Rebecca. Yes, we actually have a climate action plan in place in Dublin City Council, and part of the mission is to have a 40% reduction in greenhouse emissions, to engage and inform our clients about climate change, and to have 33% better energy use by the council itself. So we have a number of projects in place, namely the street lighting, which accounts for 25% of the energy consumption of Dublin City Council. They are all actually being replaced by the LED lights. So they used to be the sodium lights and they're being replaced by LED lights. Any retrofitting that we're doing in houses has to be up to a B or rating of B. So that would include insulation, replacing doors and windows, things like that. We also have done a number of projects in our civic offices, which is our main hub, and we have put some solar panels on the roof of civic offices, which is there in Wood Quay. We have also put in new pumps, new boilers, so that everything's running more efficiently. Now, as well as that, we also have initiative in the libraries, which is it's called a home energy saving kit. And what it is, it's a little box full of like 6 tools that people from the public can borrow and bring home, and they can test the energy rating of their house and see if there's anything, you know, that needs improving. So that's actually open to the public to come and borrow from the libraries. So it's like you would a book or whatever. But what we're doing in our section here, which is housing and maintenance, is we have about 14 depots, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be amalgamating all those depots into one super depot, because the depots that we have been using, like, they're very old. It could be buildings from like the 30s or 40s, and we're just basically trying to bring everything into, you know, modern era, you know, and like it's going to be, you know, more efficient with everyone in one place.
Thanks, Catherine. That's great. And it's great to hear at Dublin City Council collaborating with libraries. It's such an important resource that communities have here in Ireland. And then finally on to Rhonda Doyle in Schneider Electric.
Hi there. So yeah, a little bit about Schneider. So we provide energy and automation digital solutions for efficiency and sustainability. And I think what's key is our mission then is to be a partner for sustainability and efficiency for our customers, and we help our customers save millions of tons of carbon every year. When we think about the future, we think about digital and we think about electric. So digital is where you can think about connected products to people, products to products, and then products onto the cloud, which we call the Internet of Things. So a digital world is really definitely the way forward, and that's been accelerated by COVID-19 as well. And more than 50% of our revenue now is starting to come from digital, whereas before we would have traditionally been seen as more of a construction or engineering. So really moving into that technology space. And then on the electric side, green electricity is just the only way to decarbonize energy, and then move into that really renewable space where all electricity starts to become renewable around the world as well. just some examples to bring that to life. We worked with an office in Singapore that had no visibility into their energy consumption, and were able to help them achieve 20% in efficiency gain. We worked with a Telefonica data center and helped them achieve 60% reduction in their energy costs. And then Lidl, Finland is a really interesting use case where we helped them achieve 70% energy cost saving, and they actually run on 100% renewable energy. And that's the type of things that companies are looking to achieve, and they're coming to companies like Schneider to say, help us, how can we start to achieve some of the energy goals that they want to achieve themselves, but that are also coming from government as well, and we want to be the partner to help them do that. So quite an exciting space in the digital and electrical space.
Absolutely, Rhonda. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so based on what we have heard on the sustainability and the green agenda, can I ask, do you believe that future technologies will affect our daily life in more ways than we can imagine? Can I ask Stephen, if you believe that, can you tell us how?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I would say is that, you know, we're living through one giant social experiment at the moment. You know, COVID is accelerating a lot of these digital, you know, platforms and technologies, and you know, it's seeping into every facet of what we do. I mean, what we've been seeing for the last few years is that devices are becoming connected, you know, and that could be in a factory, it could be in an airport, it could be in a building, you know, an office block. And, you know, you have to ask the question, why is this happening? What's the benefits for everybody? Well, I suppose, I mean, Rhonda touched on it there, energy management. Energy management is really what's going to be the big winner from all this, because not only will we be able to, you know, obviously use much higher efficient, better, more efficient products, but we're going to be using products that will tell us, and we'll be able to control, and we'll be able to learn what our load profile is, when we like to have our lights on, when we want to have them off, our heating on, heating off. It's the ability to learn. And again, that will translate into energy savings down the line. But I'm going to give you a kind of an Irish example here. I mean, this is a really good one. So, we're working with Dublin Airport at the moment on electrifying the car park buses. So we've all gone to the car park in Dublin Airport, parked up, and being dropped off at the terminal, and vice versa. So they're on a mission there to electrify that whole bus fleet. Now, it's not simply going to be a case of, you know, putting some chargers in the ground and throwing some cables into them and off you go. There's a lot of control and management is needed to be able to get all these devices talking to each other, to prioritize buses which have low charges when they need to come out of service for a charge and get another one to slot in, and so on. It's more than just plugging a bus in. So we're working with them on that. Now, if you throw into that the passenger management system, you know, what peak times are for people moving through the airport, you start introducing analytics into the whole system there. So prioritizing when buses have full charges, when they're going to be busy, when they're going to be quiet. And again, this again is this whole connectivity thing in the cloud. It's all moving together. And I'll go one step further. So a few years' time, you can imagine coming off a plane, getting on an electric bus. Now suppose that there's no driver on the bus, and they're driverless buses, or they're driverless taxis. And again, this is technology now that is being rolled out in certain parts of the world. We are seeing it. It's still in its infancy, but for sure, this is an area where you know, certainly in my lifetime, I imagine I'll be coming off that plane and I'll be getting onto a driverless electric bus.
Thanks, Stephen. That is so exciting. I can't wait to get on a plane and get on these electrified buses with the robot or nobody in the seat driving. Yeah, so Catherine, obviously we're talking about future technologies, but based on the fields of your expertise in carpentry, do you think there's still a place for handmade craftsmanship in a world of fast-paced manufacturing?
I actually do believe that even with all the new technological advances, that they can only live alongside the traditional methods. I think they actually complement the handmade craftsmanship skills that you learn. I sort of think it's like programming a computer. If you're a computer programmer, you still have to learn the language to tell the computer what to do. So I think the world of carpentry is very similar, that we still have to know like what it is that we're trying to achieve. And like carpentry is the old, like it dates back to the Stone Age, you know, it's the oldest trade there is, you know. So like the things that the tools that we were making then, like we're still using. So, and like when we go into college, like the first thing we do is we develop our hand skills. So those things are very important, especially if you're doing bespoke items and you're making things like that. Like it's different if you are making things en masse, and you know, you might have a machine there that will it will support the labor intensive parts of the job, but it won't necessarily take away from the parts of the job that you love, and that you still need all those skills, and you still need the curious mind, thinking outside the box, and you know, using your hand skills as well. So as I said, overall it's more about complementing, the two complement each other rather than one taking away from the other.
Thanks, Catherine, and I think all the engineers here will agree with you that it is about complementing each other. Rhonda, based on what we have heard from Catherine and Stephen, you work for Schneider Electric. It's a massive company across the globe. Can you share with us any new or emerging technologies that you believe will make a positive impact on the world we live in today?
Yeah, so some bits been touched on already in terms of connected devices. That really is the way forward. People want to be in control of their energy, whether that's your own home or your business. So if I start with the home, I think a lot of us are familiar with a Nest device. We have something similar called Wiser that allows you to control the heating and the hot water in your home, even when you're away from home. And that's just starting to become an expectation that we have. Moving up from that, then there's another product called KNX Multi-Touch, and that gives you full control of shutters if you have them, lighting, temperature, and again connected to your mobile. So whether you're sitting on the sofa and you don't want to get up to change something, or you're on your way home from somewhere, just allowing you to make those changes. But more so, the direction where that is going then is telling you, is there devices in your home that are maybe sapping your energy, or have you turned on and off your heating at a certain time? Would that give you some energy savings? And then if we move that into the professional space, again, particularly related to COVID, there's a lot of buildings now that aren't being utilized. And even as we may go back to work in a hybrid model, you'll have facility managers who want to make sure that they can ensure that their building is energy efficient. So if they don't need all the lights on everywhere all the time, or the heating, how they can control that. And moving from a place where maybe before they had to walk around the building to do that, or if it was a hotel where you had to walk around, now we can actually have it on a device where they can see how everything is performing. And I think Stephen said it, you see that analytics and you start to be able to make some decisions as well. We've worked with some hotels as well in the past, or shops. So from the shop floor to the top floor is what we call it, where you're allowing even somebody at a hotel reception to be able to decide and personalize a room for a customer just from the devices that they'd have available. That's quite a change, I think, from where we've come from. And then moving up into, you know, bigger industries, and we work with a lot of the internet giants and data centers. We have a product called EcoStructure that's at the heart of a lot of our future innovation. And it goes back to that Internet of Things, where imagine they have a number of sites or a number of buildings, and there's sensors in all of those places that are all talking to each other. That comes back up to the cloud and gives them big data and analytics around maybe their sites that are inefficient, maybe products that are about to fail, and that we could, you know, get there and do what we call preventative maintenance. So pulls all that together for them, but also gives visualizations of that. And if you think of what I just said, the amount of different jobs that come out from all of that, from whether it's people working on hardware to people working on the end digital piece, the software piece up in the cloud. So just so much potential for things that are just constantly evolving.
Thanks, Rhonda. Yeah, a lot of the panelists have mentioned about connected devices, all these devices talking to each other and gathering all the analytics and all these new diverse roles that is going to come in the future, or that is already here now. So Rhonda, we'll move on to renewables. Can you tell me, do you think that there will be a time in Ireland, I didn't mean to say it like that, when Ireland has energy security through renewables, wind, wave and solar energy? Is this really a possibility for an Ireland such as ours?
You know, there's a lot coming online. I did a little bit of research on this one myself, even outside of my Schneider knowledge, and I think it really depends on the future investment and the speed. What I learned through looking into this myself is that Ireland is still one of the most import-dependent countries in the EU, with oil as one of our largest imports. So as we think about an electrical future, we've still a lot to do there. Our second greatest source then is wind energy, and we're seeing a lot of wind energy projects coming online, but they take time from the time, you know, that they start as an idea to a bid to actually getting executed. So that takes time. But wind energy provided more than 36% of the country's electricity last year, so that's a positive step. But it's up just from 30%, I think, in 2018. So still more speed to make there. And then renewable energy capacity is set to expand 50% between 2019 and 2024, and that'll be led by solar energy. So there's a lot of things happening in parallel, but it's still a journey. I think another exciting thing is the microgrids, where a little bit more local to ourselves, where we can start to connect what we call consumers with producers. So if I did have solar panels on my house, for example, and I had excess energy, that I could sell that back to the grid, and that becomes, you know, shared resources amongst everybody. So there's a lot coming online, but there's still quite a journey to have that level of security, I would say.
Thanks, Rhonda. Catherine, we know technology is changing rapidly. In terms of your area in carpentry, are there any new technologies out there that is making your work more easier and more efficient?
Yeah, we have a machine here in the workshop where I work. It's called a window line machine. And basically what it does is it encompasses about 3 or 4 different types of machines, and it's able to produce, say, parts for, we mainly make doors and windows in here. So it creates all the parts for the doors and the windows. So say, for example, it mortises the pieces, puts tenons in them, cuts them to size and rebates them. That takes away an awful lot of, as I said before, laboursome work that like would take so much time to do normally. So, and the thing about it is it's so precise. It like comes out right every single time. So having a machine like that in here, and remember that it's just one person operating that machine, rather than say having one person on each different type of machine and maybe someone else doing some of the hand skills as well. So from that point of view, that has made our job in here a lot easier. There are other machines out there, like a CNC machine, which is a computer numerically controlled machine, which, say, for example, if you, now we don't have one in here, but say, for example, if you wanted to make some kitchens, this machine will basically have every single part of this kitchen done for you in like a matter of minutes. It's incredible. So like, I think these machines are fantastic when you're working with economies of scale. As I said before, if you are making things like as I said, on economies of scale, they will work. But if you are making, I suppose, something more bespoke, maybe you're kind of going back to, you know, it might be just easier to use your power tools and your hand skills as well.
That's great. I want to get my hands on that machine and build a new kitchen for myself. I'll have to give you a call after this, Catherine. Do us an extra, please. So where are we? Michelle, if we go back to you, as you were aware, COVID-19 has had a considerable impact on remote workers who are now working from home. Can you share with us any insights on what you think future practices will look like?
Yeah, this is an interesting question. I think COVID-19 has been the biggest driver of culture change in the past year. And as Stephen mentioned, it's been a huge experiment, you know, and it really showed what was possible when we needed to make changes. I think leadership practices have evolved and are continuing to evolve to be able to understand new ways of working, but also the needs of our people. You know, employees are needing a lot more support because of all the uncertainty about their futures, but they're also needing a bit more flexibility and understanding of their own personal situations. And there's been I've seen a huge focus on well-being, you know, making sure we build in well-being practices into our day, you know, as a first thing you do, but also an environment of trust. And I think it does depend on the size of your company as well and where you work, because bigger companies may be able to do more around what they offer to people. But I think it's really, really important to have an environment of trust and employee experience, you know, because it does pay off and everybody benefits better. I've also, like, always focused on flexibility, and I've been lucky to have had it when my children were younger, and it kept me in the workforce when times were difficult. But I think if we want a diverse workforce, and especially in the areas of STEM, we need to make sure that we do have flexibility. I expect we'll have a hybrid approach and a mix of different approaches depending on different companies and what the needs of their business. But I think, you know, having something where there's a hub that people can go to, but also having maybe working more days remotely, I think there'll be a lot of different situations. I think for newer teams, sometimes it's better for them to actually be face-to-face and together initially. But I think we've seen a lot of benefits on, you know, the new work practices, and it's also benefited sustainability. You know, less people commuting, people have more time for exercise because of that. A lot of people have spent more time dropping and collecting their kids. But also then people, and I guess it's also bringing humanity back into the workplace. There's a lot of kids arriving on Zoom calls, and, you know, when I started working, we were told to keep our professional and personal lives separate. And, you know, now we talk about vulnerability and being authentic, bringing your whole self to work. So I think we need to understand also, though, that people have different situations at home, and maybe some people are, you know, even for being on calls, it may be difficult for people, and there's some people who are dying to get back into the office. I do think we're wired to connect, and we need to be able to connect with people that we're working with, and we are missing out on those casual interactions. I heard at the Agile Lean Ireland conference a few years ago, Coca Pitzer talking about if one person's remote, everybody's remote. And basically what she was saying was, if you have one team member remote, you should all dial in from your desks rather than in a conference room, because it's more inclusive. And we work with a team in Belarus who have said they felt they're part of more conversations since we've been all remote, because we have to plan our impromptu conversations.
Thanks, Michelle. You're right, working from home, we're all working from home, and we are all blurring our boundaries. But I do think a positive of it is that we are bringing our authentic whole self virtually, you know, with our teams and with our colleagues and with our community. So thanks again, Michelle, for that. So let's go back to the technologies and then the future. So Stephen, earlier you spoke about emerging technologies, and I have read on your website that a power loss of 15 milliseconds can cripple a data center. Why is that a big deal? And can I ask, what future solutions are ABB implementing to protect organizations against outages such as this?
Yeah, that's a good question, Rebecca. So, I mean, I'll rewind a little bit and just you know, describe what a data center is and why they've become so much more important to us. So, our Zoom call right now is being hosted in a data center somewhere in the cloud. So the cloud basically exists across these network of data centers. And really we've seen an absolute explosion in the build rate of these data centers over the last few years. And that's something that's definitely been accelerated by COVID. All of the devices that we use, be it industrial devices that we've been talking about now, our buildings, or, smart grid, infrastructure, cars, that all needs to be hosted somewhere. Similarly with our phones, Netflix, Facebook, you name it. It's such an integral part of modern life now. Now, bear in mind that Ireland has been a hotspot, not just for data centers, but for data cloud providers for quite a long time now. There's many reasons behind that. I probably won't go into them now. But one thing I would say is that from an engineering point of view, data centers have been very good to the Irish economy. It's almost like it's a hidden economy that's going on out there, unbeknownst to a lot of the general population, if you like. But I know certainly over the last 10 plus years, it's been very good to engineers in Ireland. And there's a huge amount of expertise has grown up from Ireland, from indigenous companies here, who are now, they're managing and constructing data centers all over Europe. And really, it's something that we should be very proud of as a country. But look, just going back to the reason why is a power loss so crucial to these guys. So if you can imagine these vast banks of servers within a data center, all of those servers could be managing anything from our Zoom call here to bank transactions to TV communications. It's everything that we do, in the digital world now sits on these servers. So any power loss is obviously going to have a big impact to all of those ancillary services that hang off them. So because of that, it's very, very important that the data centers have this protection to their power, any potential power loss. So, that can form different ways. It can be redundancy, so that you may have separate supplies coming into a data center, or you can have, I suppose the most common way of doing it is what's called an uninterruptible power supply system. So essentially what that is that manages a short power cut through energizing or utilizing the power in vast sets of batteries that you'll find in these data centers. And what will happen is if the power goes down from the supply, the batteries kick in, and then the generators ramp up and they pick up the load then until the power supply comes back in again from the grid. So essentially what the UPS, uninterruptible power supply, is doing is managing that transfer of power from the grid to the generators and back again. So, again, this has kind of evolved so much in the last, and will continue to do so over the next few years. So what's one thing that we're seeing out there is something called fast frequency response. And what that is that the data center end users are essentially allowing their battery power to be used to provide stability back onto the grid in times when they're changing, from one supply to another, or for when it's windy for wind energy, or towards where it's sunny for solar power. So it's actually, the data centers are not just pure consumers of power anymore. They're actually playing a part in providing this whole new sustainable network. They're a key component of that happening. So yeah, look, I mean, there's an awful lot happening in this space, and I think Ireland, as I said, we're very, very lucky. I mean, we have some fantastic expertise and companies working here in Ireland doing some wonderful things across Europe, across the world even.
That's great, Stephen. Yeah, Ireland is being a hotspot for these data centers, but also for opportunities then for our graduate engineers or anybody studying STEM subjects and careers to kind of get into. Plenty of opportunities in the future. And that leads us on to a question. So we're coming to the end, but I want to ask, what do you think are the most important skills graduates will need to succeed? So if all panelists can give 3 words to describe those skills and why they think it's important. So for the future graduates. We'll go to Rhonda first, please.
Sure, yeah. I think the exciting thing is that the future jobs have not always been taught up yet. I'm actually going to pick the soft skills rather than the typical tech skills and say the ability to continuously learn and the agility and flexibility to adapt with change, because we know that the world of work is always changing. We're even considering, instead of maybe an engineer in one discipline, maybe they need to be multidisciplined for some of the big customers that we're thinking about, so that we don't have to send different people into the site. So hopefully that helps.
That's great, Rhonda. And you also came from a background, you didn't come from a background in STEM either. You called yourself a
Exactly, yeah.
unicorn of...
Yeah, I'm a non-engineer. I've got a strong operations background, but that's exactly what Schneider are looking to do as well, is to bring in different disciplines to complement everybody's skill sets. I agree with Stephen. I think Ireland has a fantastic set of skill sets that have just attracted brilliant investment here.
That's great, Rhonda, thanks. Catherine, as a student, as an apprentice, and the first female apprentice in Dublin City Council, that's remarkable, and it's about time too that we had a female. Can you give 3 words that you would tell your fellow students of what skills they will need to succeed going into the future?
I think wanting to learn and wanting to continue to learn, because in this area in carpentry, you will always be learning. You don't just qualify after 4 years and you're done. You will always learn something new. So wanting to continue that on, I think as well, being able to work as part of a team. Again, I can only talk about my own area. Say, for example, you were building a house, you could be working with plumbers, electricians. Everyone has the same common goal to get the house built. So you have to be able to work with, you know, different types of people, you know, manage that. And basically just to have a curious brain and always be able to think outside the box.
Great, Catherine. Michelle, could you give us 3 words to describe those skills that graduates will need?
Yeah, I absolutely echo what Rhonda and Catherine have said, but won't repeat those. I think emotional intelligence is really important, and they show it's a greater predictor of your success than IQ, and understanding what your strengths are and how you like to work, and also your personal values, and connecting them to the business. Understanding the business value and the outcomes that you're achieving. The best engineers, software engineers I've come across, are people who can articulate how they're contributing to the business mission. Self-awareness is part of the emotional intelligence, and also at what you mentioned, Catherine, connecting with others. I think in the workplace we can do a lot more about understanding different personality types, and you know, around introvert, extrovert, neurodiversity. I think we need to learn a lot more, but I think that collaborating with people and building relationships is part of every job.
Great, thanks, Michelle. And finally, Stephen.
Yeah, I was just thinking there, it's actually 22 years since I graduated from Kevin Street, and a shiver just ran down my spine, like, where did that go, you know? But I think, you know, for me, you know, people coming out into the workforce now, you're highly skilled, you know, you're intelligent, you've had a lot of education. Don't be afraid to challenge, you know, don't be afraid to challenge the status quo. I see it quite a lot in my own organization. You know, we have some very fine engineers, really know their stuff, but they don't know everything. And, you know, it's always good to get new blood coming into the team with new ideas. And again, it's up to me and people, you know, all of us really, to give the platform, if you like, for all the new blood coming out there to be able to challenge and innovate and come up with new ideas. So definitely get out there, challenge, and you know, don't be afraid to ask those questions at all.
Thanks, Stephen. It's so great to have all you positive role models here, and it's so important for our second level students to see that, and for our students in TU Dublin as well. So thanks again. So we're coming to the end of our webinar series, and I would like to take this opportunity again to thank our panelists, and to thank Fiona Cranley as well, who made our opening remarks. Thank you, Fiona. All our panelists gave up their time to talk to us today, so we really appreciate it. So thank you so much. Thank you all for tuning in, and I hope you found this session inspiring, and we look forward to seeing you all again in the future. Bye.
Thank you.